Hi again. In this mini lecture, we will look at risk assessment. Good risk management is integral to delivering a successful partnership. Because of increasing amount of partnerships in service delivery, high risk reward options apply. Risk management is one of the key areas that guides improvement in service delivery. Service delivery through partnership can bring successful innovation, but there are risks around failing to align agendas and communicating ineffectively. However, partnerships can lead to higher level of uncertainty. Contracting arrangements, including PPP, which is public-private partnership, and PFI, which is private finance initiative, have traditionally emphasized an arm's length approach to avoid confusing responsibilities between customer and contractor, to maintain a level playing field for competitors and to reduce the risk of impropriety. However, it has increasingly been recognized that despite these benefits, a number of problems can arise, especially in long-term partnerships. These include polarized perspectives on risks, difficulty in generating a sense of ownership of action to address risks, lack of clarity about what risk had been transferred, leading to unhelpful behavior when risk materializes, with a lack of willingness to accept responsibility for taking action, and an optimistic view of how much risk can be transferred to the private sector. Risk assessment is a simple and careful examination of what, in your work process or in any other aspect of life, could cause harm to people. By assessing risks, you can weigh up whether you have taken enough precautions or should do more to prevent harm, mishaps, problems, or whatever in service delivery. Firstly, one needs to ask what could happen, as risks need to be understood and identified. Secondly, there needs to be an integrated approach, which means that risks need to be estimated and evaluated to understand which of the risks pose the greatest threat. This can be done by looking at both the likelihood and the impact. Thirdly, once the risks have been prioritized, the third step is about identifying what measures need to be made in order to manage these risks to acceptable levels. This can be done by considering whether it is possible to reduce the probability of occurrence. We can ask whether we can reduce the magnitude of loss, maybe, change the consequences of the risk. And lastly, monitoring and reviewing. This can be an ongoing process once the risks have been treated. Is there a common understanding of the risk and how they can be managed? Is this based on a common understanding of the objectives of the partnership? Are there agreed standards for assessing risk, giving a common view of severity so mitigation action can be prioritized? An external health check can help to ensure a common understanding of the risks. There is a need to ensure that partners share their assessment of risks. A joint risk register provides a good basis for this, giving the opportunity to come to agreed judgments, allocate responsibility for action, and trigger monitoring information. A shared risk register ensures complete understanding for both parties about risks to implementation and ongoing service delivery, and enables a joint approach to managing those. Clarity of who is responsible for and manages which risks is also essential. Open book arrangements can also help to ensure transparency in judging financial risks, for example. Is there clarity about who is carrying which risks and what the requirements for providing information are? This should be incorporated in partnership agreements or contracts. Good quality monitoring information should include the scale of risks and how they are being managed. A clear view of the key issues needs to be monitored, and this will help to avoid the situation where large volumes of information are provided by partners, but this is not useful without significant further analysis. In this case, we face DRIP, data-rich, information-poor situation. There has to be a clear agreement on what information will be provided and by whom. There should be an aim to have a joint risk review meetings as an integral part of performance management arrangement. This needs to be fully integrated in day-to-day management. The scale and intensity of monitoring and, where necessary, intervention should be increased when there are signs that significant risks materialize. Arrangements are necessary to trigger this action quickly. Sharing risk assessment will help to avoid different perspectives. An open dialogue will help create a shared understanding. Has the risk terminology or language been agreed upon? Or are partners using their own language with difficult translation necessary? There need to be clear plans about what actions should be taken to step in if risks are realized. For example, if a service fails. These plans should be agreed with different stakeholders and tested to verify that they would actually work. What could the potential risk factors be? These include problems such as alignment of objectives. Is there a sufficient buy-in to the department's objectives, for example? Have strategic objectives been communicated sufficiently well in order to identify common interest? Aligning authority with the responsibility. Are those responsible for managing the risks empowered to do so? Or incentives. Are there incentives for partners to manage risk effectively? Is there risk-reward balance right for each partner? Resilience of the partnership, maybe. How resilient to unexpected events is the supply chain? Or approach. Has the right approach been chosen? Is the partnering approach understood by those operating it? Have any tensions been resolved between the need to agree clear contractual arrangements and retaining flexibility for partnership working? And also monitoring. Is there prompt, relevant, high-quality performance information available? Is this clearly embedded in robust performance management arrangements? And lastly, skills, experience, and culture. Is there sufficient understanding of the whole picture? Are any culture barriers to joint working being overcome? But next, let's look at what could the risk management strategies be. For example, transferring the threat to somebody else, avoiding the threat, reducing the negative effects of probability of the threat, or even accepting some of the aspects of it. There are also a number of international standardization organization guides and frameworks that explain the principles and guidelines related to risk management. ISO Guide 73, for example, provides the definitions of terms related to risk management. The references are in the online course. But for now, thank you for listening and stay tuned for the next mini lectures.